Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Fairly Decent podcast. I am your host, Jason, and today we're gonna continue on some of these tools that we may or may not use in this thing that we call life. Today we're gonna talk about manifestation. But before I do that, I just want to thank y'all for coming back again. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. If you're a returning listener, thank you for coming back. So I just wanted to thank you guys again for coming back for another episode. Let's get right into it. Manifestation. Right, so you hear the word and you're like, manifestation. I already know what that is. I just think about it, and then if I think about it enough, it's going to happen for me. Well, that may be true for some of us. That was my initial thought of manifestation. You just think about it and you think about it hard enough, and eventually it's going to happen. And I've learned over the years, dealing with a lot of the stuff that I've dealt with, that's just part of the case. It's not wrong, but it's not fully the case. Right. So like the art of practicing manifestation obviously begins with, the thought of who you want to be, where you want to be in life, imagining the life you want for yourself. And at first, it does become easy to become a skeptic of manifestation. And I'm going to go back a little bit. I was actually reintroduced to manifestation by somebody that I used to teach with, and just long story less long, I used to teach percussion full time. I was the percussion director of a school in the state that I'm in, and I handled all things percussion, from helping with the writing process, helping with the design process, and of course teaching hands-on. And somebody who I was a peer of mine always reinforced this idea of manifestation, and it took me a while to really understand what this person was talking about, because on a surface level, again, you think of manifestation and you think of, if I just think about it hard enough, things will come. And the way it was reintroduced to me was pretty eye-opening. So I'm going to share some of that stuff with you today, just, how I was reintroduced to it, because most of us have already been, at least introduced to the idea of manifestation, but there's other things that kind of live within the idea of manifestation that have to take place in order for it to be successful. So just like most things in life, everything can be broke down into several different parts. So I'm gonna kind of go over some of those parts that this person reinforced into me in the idea of manifestation, that it's not just a thinking process. It's not just a, luck. It's not just one thing. It really does consist of a combination of different ideas and practices, and, just thinking about it isn't enough. So if we want to break it down, like, into parts, the way it was reintroduced to me was, if you just break it down into three parts, right? Manifestation is the main part, right? That's the headline. But if you want to break it down further, you have three parts. You have the thought, you have the action, and you have the result. So let's kind of start with the thought. Start by asking yourself questions about your goal. Am I going to do this? Like, is this something that I want for myself? Just by initiating those questions and visualizing it, you've already started to manifest your goal. You know what I mean? You've already started the process of asking yourself, am I going to do this? So just by answering that question alone, you can almost already eliminate whether this is going to happen or not. I mean, obviously, if you answer the question, no, am I going to do this? No. You've already put a lock on, this is not going to happen. And that's okay. Sometimes you just really need to ask yourself, am I going to do this? Am I going to commit to this goal that I'm setting for myself? Right? So then we've answered that question, yes. Am I going to do this? Yes. So once you've answered yes, then you have to ask yourself the next question. Is this something that I want for myself? If and when I do reach this goal, is this something that I want for myself? And again, just by asking yourself and answering those questions, you've already started the process of manifestation. Just by confirming or denying those answers can already start to affect your actions and behaviors, in the process of achieving this goal, right? And that's kind of where this gets a little tricky. The action to accomplishment ratio, is sometimes off. Just because you think about the job and when you work hard for it, you don't always get that job. So where's the disconnect? And the sad truth is that it's not always manifestation's fault. Sometimes it's your own. Sometimes we confuse, aimlessly daydreaming an idea or a thought and manifestation, because those two aren't the same thing at all. They are very, very far apart in terms of, the way of thinking in achieving a goal, right? Because when we daydream, we create these like wild scenarios and creating these highly feel-good moments, which is great, for making goals, but the difference with manifestation is, you have to apply that daydreaming, with a purpose. We have to be like very specific and mindful in this thinking process that we have. Like the daydream can't change. The thought has to be the same. It has to be the same every single time, because you're tricking your mind when you create these wild scenarios in your head. So when you daydream, if you have this specific picture in mind, that's manifestation. Applying the same thought into your brain each time you ask yourself those very first two questions. It has to be the same process. And I think, and again, this is all stuff that was reintroduced to me and actually worked for me. Everybody is different. Every one of these thought processes is different. I'm just here to, spread what was reintroduced to me because it worked for me. This podcast is not a self-help podcast. This is not something that is gospel. This is just what worked for me. Right. So back to answering those first two questions and then creating yourself, this imagery in your mind. Once you've kind of got that in your head, at least for me, once I kind of got that, picture in my head, the next process that was introduced to me was repetitiveness, frequency. How often are you actually thinking about this goal of yours, and how often are you thinking of the same goal? Because we can have, myself included, we can have 100 goals, but it's really hard to manifest 100 goals at the same time. You have to be very specific in your thought process, right? So we've got the answers to our questions. We've got this image in our head. We're telling ourselves every single day, that's kind of when the shift of, the thought process needs to start turning into action, right? You have to start using manifestation as a mental push and not just a dream anymore. Like it is like the oldest saying in the book, you're not going to see any result until you start applying action. And, that's just the facts of reality. It starts with a dream, but you have to put in the work. And that's kind of like where I go back to something that I always go back to. If you've ever listened to this podcast, I guarantee you some point in every single episode, I always bring back up small goals. And I know there's some people probably like, oh my God, Jason, talk about small goals again. We get it. I know it's annoying, but I promise you, it is the most helpful thing that has ever worked for me. Setting myself small goals and achieving small goals. Like nobody is just gonna knock on your door one day and just hand you what you're trying to manifest. It just doesn't work that way. You all know that. I don't need to explain that. I really think there's a lot of intelligent people that listen to this podcast. You all know it's not just going to be handed to you. You have to put in the work. And I am always going to support anybody who is truly manifesting what they want for themselves, because I know the amount of work it takes. I know the amount of mental stress, physical stress. I know the amount of work that it takes, because I am supposed to be here, but if you look at it on paper, I'm not supposed to be here. Last year, I probably should have died. I beat the odds, and, I never thought that I was going to be normal again. But I told myself that I'm going to get out of this, and I thought about it, and, I thought about it and created this image in my head of just me being out here again, me being on this microphone, talking to you all, helping people in need, doing what I can to make the people around me better. That maybe, wasn't supposed to happen. Maybe it was, but regardless, I manifested the idea of what is going on in my life right now, and everything is going to plan. And this isn't, a time for me to, applaud myself or pat myself on the back or, want some validation from somebody else. I'm just letting you guys hear it, letting you guys know that manifestation is real. It is possible. Okay, pause real quick. Okay, I went off on a rant for a second. That's my bad. I really only have one more thing left, and it's basic knowledge, but it's just applying all of these things together with the thought process. I just want to differentiate the idea of manifestation and the idea of daydreaming, just because they're not the same thing, And so once you've kind of answered these questions, you've created this image in your head, you're putting in action towards whatever goal you set for yourself. By this point, you should start seeing results. And with those results, it becomes tricky because, your mind is a scary place sometimes when things are going good and when things are going bad. And for me, it's really scary when things start going good, because our brains are kind of hardwired to just, have negative thoughts, whether it's about ourselves or about other people. Our brains are hardwired for some reason to always have a idea of negativity. So with manifestation, that doesn't really work. You have to maintain a positive attitude. You just have to. It just goes back to the law of attraction, where positive energy attracts positive energy. That's just really the way of life. Like I said, our brains are hardwired to think negatively about ourselves sometimes, but you have to reverse that psychology of thinking, because let's just break it down in simple terms. You can't beat yourself up and you can't think of yourself in a negative light at the same time you're daydreaming of a life that you want to live. Those two things just don't attract. That just doesn't make any sense for you to beat yourself up each and every single day and then magically all of these positive things are going to happen in your life. It just doesn't work like that. You have to start patting yourself on the back. I can't say that enough. Nobody likes a narcissist, but nobody really likes somebody that just beats themselves down every day either. Like I said, our brains are hardwired to think negatively about ourselves. So you set yourself this main goal, right? So until you reach that main goal, most people are like, I'm not shit. You have to reverse that way of thinking. You have to set yourself those small goals and then congratulate yourself each time you reach one of those small goals. Because if your only goal is this big picture, that's cool, but there's going to be a lot of goals on the way. And if you don't congratulate yourself on each one of those small goals along the way, that's just, I don't think that's how manifestation works. And our brains didn't come with instructions, so that's kind of the hardest part. Is every day is different and every person is different. So this is what worked for me. Maybe you apply all of these things, maybe you apply none of them, maybe you apply some of them. I'm just trying to reverse the way of thinking for some people, because I know there's people who have that mindset of, I tried it once and it didn't work for me. I gave up, and, my brain is hardwired to think, been there, done that. And I totally get it. I just want to reverse the way of thinking with this idea of manifestation. So, hopefully you found something in here to take away. Maybe you didn't. It's all good. This thing we call life is different for everyone, and what works for me might not work for you, and what works for you might not work for me. But like I said, I'm just trying to reverse the way of thinking in that, things are only achievable through luck or hard work. You can be the hardest working person in the world, but everything won't go your way, if that makes any sense. You have to apply a lot of different things in your thought process and in your actions in order for these goals to come to real life. So yeah, I just want people to start thinking about the idea of manifestation, because I am a really, really firm believer in manifesting your reality. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully you can take something away from this. If you don't, thanks for coming in to listen anyway. Like I said, I just come here on this podcast to let my thoughts out about life, my life specifically, and in the hopes that somebody can, take something away from it. If you guys ever have any questions, obviously, reach out to me. I'm always approachable. I'm always around. I'm always here for discussion, for anything, honestly. And I may not always have the answers. I rarely have the answers, which is why I come on here and kind of express my thoughts, because, my thoughts could be combined with somebody else's thoughts and make a whole brand new thought. You just never know. So thank y'all again for, coming in, listening. Thank you guys again for all the support. The support recently has been unreal. The store, as you guys know, opened on Saturday, and the store absolutely killed it. Far exceeded any expectation that I had. So thank y'all again for that. All of your orders have been processed. All of the orders are being fulfilled as we speak. So thank y'all again for that. You guys know where to reach me. Everything is at FairlyDecent. Wherever you have your socials, wherever you get your content, everything is at FairlyDecent. So I just want to thank y'all for coming out again this week, showing support. I just, like I said, I can't thank y'all enough. So yeah, make sure you guys come back next week. Next week we are back on Sunday. This week we were on Monday for obvious reasons, but yeah, thank y'all for coming again. I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.